and it is like if you see the whole scene, whole making of a lot of horror films, it gets so incredibly ruined for you because it's so not scary. Like the moment is just not scary. Like I had this little girl sitting under my chair holding like she had to pre-pump the blood and then hold the
Yeah.
hose down, so the blood comes like at the right moment.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Crime and Entertainment. I got approached to have this young lady come on the show. She's got a interesting background: actor, health coach, fitness trainer. Please welcome to the show, Marty. Marty, how are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So, a good friend of mine, Matt Granahan, the King of Connecticut, as he likes to be called,
King.
he's the one that kind of brokered this interview. So I typically like to do a little research on the guest. But this is your first ever podcast. So I didn't have
It
that option to me.
it is. It is. Yes, I am sort of a newcomer to this. I've been in the show business sort of my whole life, but it was most of it in Europe. I lived my whole life in Europe. So once I came here, it was rebuilding an entire life. I didn't know anybody. I didn't bring anything but a suitcase. So
Right.
took many years to find, myself here. And so this year has been a really good year to me, though. I've been in a lot of really fun projects. So, yes. And I have these amazing people like Chuck Sloan and Matt that really believe in me and are really giving me a push to kind of, go further with this sort of.
There you go. That's what it's all about. And the King's a great guy. He's been on this show many a times. We've covered a lot of topics. So if he sends me somebody, I'm definitely going to do my best to bring them on and let them share their story. So with any good story, we like to start from the beginning and kind of work our way forward. So let's go back to, early life, where you grew up, what home life was like, and then we'll kind of go through the steps of how we got here.
Sounds good. So I am Polish born. My family actually recently did all the ancestry DNA stuff, and I am, in fact, like a good 90% Polish.
Oh, okay.
So it's not very normal that, coming from Europe, that you're not at least a little mixed. There's very, very little of like Scandinavian there, probably where the blonde comes from, but I am, yes, fully Polish. I was, however, born in Germany and lived most of my life in Germany because I was born in the 90s and communism was still pretty bad in Poland. So my parents moved us to Germany when we were children. Um, and I very, very early on as a child already found like a huge passion for both music and film first. And then that kind of brought me to theater. So I started with musicals when I was 6.
Okay. So had the acting bug a little early then, or
Mm,
I guess
Too
performance bug, I might call it. Yeah.
Yeah, too early. Yeah, and it's a little different in Europe. I see a lot of people over here do this thing where they spot something artistic in their child and they push that, which is amazing. In Europe, it's a little bit different, and I don't know if it's still like that now, but when I was a kid, it was like no, here, focus on academics, right? This is just your job, your hobby.
Right.
Like, okay, you can do some ballet and you'll teach piano, but here, do the math, do this, go to college. And while I appreciate that I've been pushed to go to college and I did graduate and I have a bachelor's of linguistics, which is awesome, but I could never quiet down this whole artistic thing. And I never loved any of those like pragmatic jobs, if it makes any sense.
No,
It
yeah,
kept
perfect sense.
pushing me to the artistic side of it. So while it was treated like a hobby when I was a kid, it was always just my calling, sort of.
Okay. Yeah, I've been real reluctant to do like that family, history thing, like the 21 Me or whatever it is. I'm always scared of what's going to pop up out there. Not for me, but for my other family. I know. I actually have a friend of mine. Her daughter done it, and then it popped up that her mother. I forgot how this went. Her mother's mother wasn't her, like, basically her dad wasn't her real dad.
Oh, yeah,
And
it
this
sucks
is
to
like,
find that out.
yeah, and this is like a long time, like, and the granddaughter figured it out.
Wow.
So that's like, and I mean, they're catching serial killers with these things.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
for real. It's crazy.
I forgot which serial. I think it was the Golden State Killer. That people were doing these
Yes,
DNA things.
that's right.
And so, like, the
Okay.
grandchildren or the grandchild or something, like, put it in there, and then they were basically, they got a hit. They kind of done some stuff that they weren't necessarily supposed to do, nailing those down,
Yeah.
but it went, basically process of elimination, eliminated everybody except for the Golden State Killer. His name escapes me right off the top of my head. Yeah, I can't remember what it is, but yeah, that, I mean, they're catching serial killers with this stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. Generally, what technology and science has been doing is, and it's speeding up too. It's just happening faster and faster. New shit is coming out. We're like, has this been around, or have people been doing this for years? Or like, I mean, AI too. It's shocking me right now.
Oh, I
And
speak to people that's had, like, long prison sentences on this show. I mean, 25, 30 years. And I just think, like, we're 2024. So if somebody done a 25-year prison sentence, that
Mhm.
means they went in the 90s, late
Right,
90s. So if you come out, you think of how much shit is different
right,
now than
yeah,
when you went in the 1999 or whatever the case. I mean, internet
yeah,
computers, we basically hold mini computers on our hand
yeah.
now. I mean, just, everything is streaming based. You just say it and it pops up. You can turn on the lights with your, volume or your phone, or just saying a phrase. If I say it, I'm scared
Mhm,
my TV might turn off or computer
mhm,
might come off, because everything's wired now. And I mean, it's just got to be an eye-opening experience for somebody coming out of prison that's done
yeah.
a long stretch of like 27 years.
Everything's instant too. But funny you should say that, because I believe that really is literally what they're addressing in like the very beginning of Tulsa King, where Sylvester Stallone was in jail for
Yeah,
ages and he comes out and he's like, "What is an Uber? Like, I want
yeah,
a taxi. Like, what the hell? Get
yeah,
me an Uber." What do you mean you don't take cash? It's just, yeah, the world is completely different right now.
yeah, and that's a great show. You're actually got a little part in there, and we'll get into that. So you kind of grew up, you were in the performing basically. What When was like your first big kind of push to go into the acting, or when you knew, all right, this is something I wanted to pursue? And then was that over there? Was that when you kind of got over here to the United States?
So, I was lucky that I had an amazing music teacher in elementary school, and she sort of, it was a music teacher only.
All right.
Yes. So, you know how elementary school music, you basically just sing nursery rhymes essentially, right? But she
Right.
somehow already saw in me that I was hitting the notes all get good, and I was like humming to myself while other stuff was going on and all that stuff. And when I was 5, I was pretending to speak English to myself, by the way, when I was playing. Nobody still knows why. I only spoke Polish and German then. So, um, and so she pushed me into doing like the school musicals and school plays. But she was really, really big in the city that we lived in, which is a pretty big city in Germany, a pretty popular city too. People may have heard of it. It's Cologne, so it's got this big
Yeah.
cathedral in the middle. Yeah, beautiful place to live and grow up in. But so we would actually go on tour with those musicals. And as much as I absolutely cried every evening when I had to get all the makeup off and all that stuff, because I was 6, I absolutely loved the performing. I loved the acting. I loved the singing. I loved the dancing. And I love the anxiety that you get right before, like, it just, so she sort of showed me that it can be done and that you can't only watch it on TV.
Right.
But I I couldn't tell you exactly the year right now. You could probably look up what year that movie came out, but that's like a very vivid memory of mine is when I first watched Casper and Wendy. And I believe Hilary Duff back then was about my age, and she was the little Wendy. And I would watch that movie, and I would think, and again, I must have been like maybe 7, 8. And I literally thought back then, I'm running out of time. Like,
Mhm.
if I don't become an actress now, that's a role I can't have. Like, I'll be too old for this role. So it was weird. It was weird my whole life. It was just something that I always wanted to do. But film, I didn't get to do up until I was in college. In college, I was helping as a PA on a soap opera. I was still in Germany going to college, and they kind of put me on a horror film. It was like a no budget horror film. I literally never saw it come out of post, unfortunately, and it just felt like I was very stuck in Europe.
Mhm.
So, and I moved here in 2016. But again, it was a very big culture shock, which I didn't expect because I had visited before. But
Right.
being here and living here is a whole different story. And I didn't know anybody. And the people that I thought were friends are just like fair weather friends because I didn't know them that well and I didn't know them that long. What is there to expect? So I think sometimes life has a funny way of having its own timing and
Mhm.
having its own, like, putting people in your life or putting you in other people's lives,
Yeah.
where things fall into place. Because as much as I've now had oftentimes this weird feeling of, again, aging and like, oh shit, I'm running out of time, of being like the young pretty actress or whatever. Now is my time because I have learned so much. I have gotten so much wiser. I've gotten more confident because I've been through so much, and
Mhm.
all that stuff adds, for lack of a better word, ammunition for you, even if
Yeah.
it just comes about like channeling an emotion for an actor.
Mhm.
So, as much as I've been in despair for many years, thinking, why is this not ever going to happen? And there's been moments where I thought, I give up. Like, it's not going to. I guess I'm just going to be like a stay-at-home mom now forever. I never gave up fully, and the right people showed up in my life, so to kind of open that door for me again, remind me of the passion and all that stuff. So
And I mean, that's great though, because like you don't know when your break is going to come. So it's like there's an old saying, and I don't know if Michael Jordan actually said this because there's so many things that float around on the internet, with somebody's picture and a phrase or a quote or something. But whether he said it or not, the quote is still true. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take,
yeah,
and
exactly.
so if you
The
give up
answer
on
can
it, it's not going
only
to happen.
be no. Yeah, sorry. The answer can only be no if you don't ask the question, right?
Yeah,
And that's
correct.
sort of, yeah. Yeah, but in the time that I haven't been doing acting actively like this, I was always pursuing it. So I was always trying to find other ways. So, for example, I had little bands here and there. I did my little covers, for myself and all that stuff. And then now combining the passion that I've always had, that I absolutely love children and I love to be around them, love to make them smile. I kind of combined that with acting by doing I have like a little princess business where I visit them in hospitals. We do charity events with a lot of other like superheroes and other princes and other actors and stuff, but birthday parties, and I get booked for those. So I was able to kind of combine the whole, I'm still 100% this other character. The kids, like 4-year-olds, really believe this, and the spark that shows up on their faces is all well worth it. So
Yeah, I used to work at a sign company years ago, and it's very lucrative. I had no idea sign companies was made that much money because at least in the United States over here, every business has to have a sign, and
okay.
how much you want to depend on it or spend on it is you know up in the air. But I mean, I've seen signs go anywhere from $500 to 100,000. Just depends on how detailed people want to go. And this lady come in with a sign for her business, and I forgot the name of it off the top of my head, but that's what it was. It was basically people would call in and they would book. It could be Deadpool, Spider Man, Barbie, Wonder Woman, whatever. And she had people. Sometimes it was the same people, but just in different costumes. But they would go and dress up as these characters, and they go to a birthday party for 2.5 hours or make an appearance or whatever. So, it was really cool, and I was like, wow, that's really a thing. And she's like, yeah, she's like, I come up with it a couple of years ago and, thought it would be good. She's like, I made a Facebook page for it and then it just took off. So, that's kind of cool too, to do that. And even though you're doing that, it's still, you're in a costume. You want to pretend to be that person. So it's still kind of got your acting chops, but doing something, good for the kids on top of it.
Right, right. And it really is. In my case, there's not a lot of money in this, and
Right.
it's very, very hit or miss. So and that's like been the story of my life this year. I have like 8 bookings in one weekend or none for a month. Like you never really know with this.
I can tell you that lady here makes a ton. Like she
Yeah.
charges, I mean, like that's her business. So, I'm not
Mhm.
saying she doesn't ever do anything, show up at a charity event or something like that. But as far as just regular bookings, like she charges a pretty penny to come and hang out, for a couple hours. And it's very lucrative. And
Yeah.
it's just one of those things that you would never think about that people would pay for. But I mean, you're talking 250 to show up for a couple hours. I mean, that's not a chump change. You book
Mhm.
two or three of them over a weekend. I mean, that's pretty good money.
Yeah, that's a pretty good additional like side income.
Yeah, for sure. I
Yeah.
wanna back up a quick second before you, said you came over, you done a horror movie and never come out of post. What
Mhm.
did you think about that experience, and what is your preferred movie or TV show to be in?
So the movie was called Snuff, and I was the opening scene of the movie, tied to a chair in a dark dungeon at 3 a.m. and then snuffed. And then they drove me home smelling like cocoa and cherries because they made the blood
Yeah,
out of cherry juice and cocoa powder. It was one of the coolest experiences ever, for me, especially as the first time ever. I would have loved to see the footage, but it was again no budget, so it literally was like when the moon is at a specific angle, we have to shoot it real quick, and then
yeah,
like no, it was very cool. It was very eye opening about a lot of stuff in horror film, especially that people do and go through, and all the special effects and the blood shooting out and very very cool. And absolutely would do that again. My upcoming movies that we're doing are going to have a lot of that stuff in it, honestly. And we were shooting something. I don't think I can get into too much detail about what exactly we were shooting last weekend, but it was fun because it was very, very glamorous at first. And then every time at the end, we would add blood. And I was so incredibly miserable every time because it was getting cold and I was covered and and you can't touch any. It's funny because they say it's such a glamorous life as an actor. It really isn't always that glamorous, you know?
yeah. I'm a big watcher of, like, behind the scenes and stuff like that, like commentary on DVDs or the making of, and, you watch some of these movies, and especially when it starts off early and they get a lot of stuff on them and they have to keep it on them throughout the film. I mean, like that's a lot of work, to make sure everything looks the same. A lot of times you're having to wear the same clothes, over and over again because you don't have multiples and you want everything to have continuity. So you just wear the
Hmm.
same thing over and over. And one of my favorite films was the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't know if you've seen it, but
Yes.
I mean, yeah, I think everybody that likes horror movies have to. That's kind of like your Bible. And they were talking about just shooting that movie and how the budget was next to nothing. And, nobody even knew if it would make it. And, everybody, because it was Texas and it was the heat, like everybody was just stinking so bad, especially Gunnar Hansen, the guy that was playing Leatherface, because you're having to wear the same stuff over and over and over. And then when you
Yeah.
start getting, the blood and stuff mixed on you, you have to basically just keep that same, outfit. And I mean, it can get a little brutal, but I love horror films, man. I love the way they do that and they produce the gore and all that. It's really interesting to me. And I think those are just always some fun. I love interviewing people that have had those experiences. And I've had makeup artists on the show that's been in, movies like that. And I mean, just to hear those experience, the way they come up with stuff, some of it is pretty elaborate, but I mean, some
Mhm.
of it is just so simple and it has the greatest effect that you would never think of it.
Right. Yeah, and it was fun because and it is like if you see the whole scene, whole making of a lot of horror films, it gets so incredibly ruined for you because it's so not scary. Like the moment is just not scary. Like I had this little girl sitting under my chair holding like she had to pre-pump the blood and then hold the
Yeah.
hose down, so the blood comes like at the right moment.
Main points that he wants to drive home. So it's stick to the
Yeah, he has
script.
a
And
vision.
so I've talked to actors before this, work with people like it's escaping me right now, Saving Private Ryan, Spielberg. I think that's
Hmm.
Spielberg done that. So they already have the movie shot in their head. They know
Hmm.
exactly what they want, the camera shot they want, all of that type of stuff. So it's hard to deviate from it, but at the same time, you know who you're working with.
Hmm.
So obviously what you think might do good, I'm gonna go with who I know has done great.
Right, right.
What
No,
now?
and they have a vision for sure. They have their vision, and that's it.
Yeah.
But they're doing great work, so.
Oh yeah, yeah, wonderful. And I mean, there's rumors of what his 10th film is going to be, and that might be the end of it. I hope not, but I mean, I'm curious to see what his last film is going to be. You
Mhm.
mentioned earlier Tulsa King, so you were actually had a little part in Tulsa King. Tell us a little bit about that, how that came to be, and then what that experience was like.
So I was actually really lucky to have been selected. They had I understand that the whole first season of Tulsa King was shot elsewhere, and then they moved here. And the very beginning of shooting, one of the first scenes ever shot in Atlanta with extras. It was a very big scene. There was a lot of the extras. But I was so fortunate because they actually sat me like I saw the camera just like they were like, I'm starting the scene right on her face and then moving. Like I was like, yes, maybe I'll actually be visible, which was so exciting because when you do extra work like background acting work, it's very possible that you'll spend the entire day there
And not,
and
yeah,
you have nothing to show for. I mean, you do because you're learning experience. The reason I submitted for it was I really want to see a real big set. I've been
mhm,
in independent films. I've done this. I've done short films. I've done local projects. I want to see a real big set, and that was awesome. It was incredible. Such a great experience. But there was so on because I think were either because it was the first time they had extras there locally, or because it was just that many extras. But it was a little bit chaotic, and then afterwards there was a lot of drama. Um, People overheard the directors talking and moving people around because they had the official casting call was young attractive people for the bar scene, and there was just a lot of like how do I say that, distinguished cowboys there. And they
yeah,
were at some point like, we got to move some of these like old bearded men aside and move some ladies, like younger ladies, right there, and the apparently the casting and so some of the crew, not crew, sorry, some of the background actors got offended by that and made a big scene that there was a toxic experience, a toxic environment, which it really was not. You just have to, I mean, again, they have a vision. They were moving people around based on t-shirt color for an aesthetic like shot.
yeah.
I mean, these people are highly invested and artistic in the whole shot. You can't just have a stripy green shirt over there. It's just not going to look right. They're
Mhm.
very you know just extreme about that. So
So you said they shot that in Atlanta. Did they not shoot the first season in Atlanta? Was it actually shot in Oklahoma or just elsewhere? Or do you know?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think they did shoot it in Oklahoma. I think so.
That
There's a
makes
lot of
sense.
scenery too that doesn't look like here. So and then yeah, they moved here for this season. They built the entire like they have the entire insides, all of the rooms next to each other inside this huge building. It looks incredible. I mean, you walk into that bar and you have like even every chandelier was like height and brightness adjusted to fit with the cameras and all the like. It was
Yeah.
incredible. It was so cool.
Did you get to speak to Sly at all?
Well, you're really not supposed to, and they bring in stand-ins until the actual shot. But I was sitting really close to him both shots, and I did overhear him having some private conversations, which was really cool because I have to say he confirmed things that a lot of people worry about. Is he genuine or not? And he sounded very genuine. He was like on FaceTime with someone's daughter from like wardrobe. Somebody was like, "Hey, my daughter, she's like out there, like it's her birthday," and he was like having a conversation with her, "Happy birthday" and all that. So he was being uh, extremely cool, and I think. And all the other actors were very very friendly. A lot of them did greet people whenever they saw him and acted fairly normal. But yeah, one of the rules usually is like unless the primary characters address you, you're not addressing them. Like that's kind of like a
Yeah, I can imagine you don't want a big spectacle of all your extras lining up for autographs, but still, that's got to be cool to be able to be in the presence of somebody like that. And all the years, I mean, Sly's worked in the industry for years, and he's one of them that I've never really heard too many bad or off colored things about. You hear things about this person, that person, but I always say like anybody's allowed to have a bad day. Just because they don't sign an autograph if you see them and the airport or a store or a restaurant or something like that. Like, as much of a fan as I am, I don't know if someone's sitting down eating at a restaurant, if I would come up and ask for a picture. You know what I'm saying? Like the timing would have to be right for me to ask. It would have to probably be outside or standing around. I can see you're not really engaged in anything. And even then, sometimes it's really hit and miss. Um, I'm a big sports fan. I'm a big Panther fan. Carolina Panthers. Well, I used to be. They're not playing too good right now. But one of the former linebackers that was there when they were doing well, I spotted him in a 7-on-7 football tournament with my son, and I was like, I debated for like 30 minutes of whether to go up and like ask him for a picture because I felt for sure he probably would, but then at the same time, I'm noticing like nobody else is doing it. So I'm like, I don't know if people just don't know who he is or so is it the right time? And I ultimately decided against asking him for a picture, but I did go up and have a conversation with him. We were talking about who they were going to draft and if he thought it was a good idea. So I mean that was cool, and obviously I don't have nothing to show for it, but I mean it was still cool to just have that conversation with somebody that plays the game. So I always say I take any stories of somebody having an attitude or not wanting to sign an autograph with a grain of salt because you don't know what kind of day people are having. I mean, I'm not famous by any means, but I mean, sometimes, just people in general. I mean, I'm ill with, another situation. So it's going to make me ill in general. So if somebody comes up to me with a question or something, I can get that way. So I can understand why a movie star would get that way. They could probably have it 10 times worse.
yeah, I agree, and I'm the same way. I would always think twice, three times about addressing anyone because my assumption is that they've been bugged and pestered 800 times a week already, and you do get sick of it. I truly believe that. Now, obviously, they live luxurious life on other ends. Like it's what I think Kit Harington is the one who said it. He says, I do the acting for free. What they're paying me for is the pain in the ass that I have like of a life
Yeah.
right now, where I can't just go downstairs to the convenience store, and that's the truth. And honestly, I mean, I've met very few celebrities in my life. Most of them, it was actually like a situation where either they actually came out to talk to people, some musicians I've spoken to that I'm like gushing over, and I'm not the type of person usually, but some people just like, oh my gosh, that's like starstruck, and but and then the last person I spoke to was actually Homelander, Tony, what's his last name? Why can't I
You
remember his
remember
last
his
name? It's
last name? I
escaping
know
right
you were
now.
talking about.
Anthony Starr. Anthony Starr. Yeah, Homelander at the convention, at the Mad Monster convention here in Charlotte, and he was sitting in a booth, and they take money to line up and take a picture with him.
Yeah.
And I don't have that money. Like it's like $80 for like a selfie with it.
Yeah.
It's I don't have that, but because I was upon request dressed as Starlight at the convention, I just like whenever the line was kind of dying down, I walked up and asked if I could just have a quick conversation with him. And it's just like I literally just told him, "Look, thank you. You've inspired me. Your acting's amazing. The show is great. I mean, I did not mention that it's dying down on me a little bit this last season, but because his acting never got worse, like it's
Right.
not his fault. But yeah, I don't know. It's awkward. I feel like I don't know why. I felt really, really awkward doing it because I'm not the type of person to be like, oh my gosh, oh, really autograph. I want to have genuine conversations with people.
Yeah.
And they're also people. Like that's what I think. Oftentimes people forget. Like they'll read the People magazine, go like, oh my gosh, look, Jennifer Aniston takes her trash out. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, like she poops too. Like what are you talking about? They're just people.
I seen a clip with Tom Cruise, and this is what like really put it in perspective because like everybody I think has this fantasy dream of, oh, I'd like to be a famous movie star, a famous, musician. You get that, and then you realize life, regular life as you know it, is over. You have to take all these precautions of, making sure you have either security with you, or you probably go into certain places as have to sneaking in the back door and sitting in private rooms, and your access in normal life is then basically over. And he said, I went on the subway, and he's like, I had glasses on, I had my hat down. And he's like, I'm looking, and he's like, the one thing that I like about today's technology, he said, although it's taken away from interaction, is he said, everybody's focused on their phones. So he said, he's looking around the subway, everybody's on their phone. They're not paying him no attention. And he said, he kind of pans over, and this girl is just looking at him. And so she's like, you can see her mouth starting to drop, and said he just looks at her and he's like,
Did it work?
She said she takes her phone up and is like, takes a picture and then puts it back down. So he was like, I can live with that.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it, like especially in somewhere like New York City, you would think that would be, I actually think that would probably be easier to blend in because New York is just so fast. But going to like celebrities pop up here. I live in Charleston and they pop up here all the time. And when they pop up, like almost immediately, it's making the news, it's making social media that they're in the downtown area walking around. So it's not a unusual thing, but also like it's not every day either. But in New York, I think it would be really easy to kind of blend in with the crowd and get on the subway and nobody even know who you are.
Yeah, I was almost disappointed when we visited New York City and we took all the like subways and everything, and I was kind of just looking around like there's got to be someone famous here. Like you feel like every other person would be.
You
But I
probably
guess they
passed
probably
them and
don't
didn't
like.
know it. You probably passed them
Yeah,
and didn't even have a clue. You think if
right.
somebody that you recognize of seeing on TV has a pair of sunglasses and a ball cap over their face and is looking down, you're not going to give them a second look. You know,
Yeah,
you would
I
pass.
probably run.
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
small girl. I'll probably run. Like I don't want to. Like I don't know. You know who you are and what you want.
Um, was it just that one episode that you were on the Tulsa King, or have you been in others?
No, I've only been in that one, and I've been telling myself that I deserve the role of the young and attractive patron at the bar, but because that background actor casting company actually quit the next day due to toxic environment because they didn't follow instructions again. Like, so I have no idea who's now casting them. So it just kind of moved over to a different agency. I didn't see any more listings since. I would have loved to go back. At the same time, I do have to admit, like, just standing around for 12 hours to be an extra does get frustrating when you've actually had lines in the part before,
Yeah.
after a while. And I mean, again, I absolutely love being part of bigger productions, and I'll do it for the experience for sure. But for now, yeah, I've just been and I've been going weekend after weekend. We've been doing one movie and then another, and there's a couple of other little projects. So been pretty busy with independent stuff.
Good. And I think independents now have the availability to take off just as much as anything else, especially with the, social media. If you can market things right. I mean, you look at the movie Terrifier. I don't think it was ever supposed to be what it turned into, but, due to social media and reposting and, it's largely become one of the bigger horror franchises in the business right now with little to no budget, and it's bringing in millions upon millions of dollars. And that I think is where horror has to step up over any movie genre out there, is because it's like universally most people enjoy being scared in a movie capacity. Like obviously not in real life. Nobody wants to be chased by a maniac with a knife, but in a movie
Yeah.
sense, everybody likes to be scared a little bit. and
Yeah.
especially in that kind of scenario. So it's like it's so easy to turn a profit with a horror movie because in some cases you don't even need like a known figure. You just need a scary story and scary environment. Nobody knew who, Art the Clown really was. You had largely unknown actors playing the other parts, and it
Hmm.
was one of the scarier movies that you could find. And that's just, I think, the recipe of how horror can be profitable. And some of the bigger, I think Blair Witch is still up there, most profitable horror movie ever
Oh yeah,
due to the marketing because it
that's
cost nothing to
crazy.
make, marketed very well, marketed as real, even though it wasn't.
Hmm.
Same thing with the paranormal activities. I mean, there's just so many ingenious ways to market horror movies that, don't have to blow a lot on budget, but can still scare the hell out of you.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Well, I hope so. We have some horror movies coming out, so I hope
There
so.
you go. Is that your favorite movie to watch? What's your preference when you're watching movies as a regular viewer?
Watching it used to always be horror. Horror films used to be my absolute favorite. It almost kind of died down. I want to say maybe whenever I started having children that I became a little bit more sensitive to a lot of stuff. And
Right.
also they tend to incorporate children like that. I struggle with that part. It's like there's a couple of topics that I can't really stomach as well anymore,
Yeah.
if that makes any sense. But no, I do. I absolutely love horror films. I love, I don't know what genre you would call the stuff that Tarantino does, or also like, I don't know, do you know Bullet Train?
Yeah.
Bullet Train, then there's like Seven Psychopaths. Those are I don't know what that is really. Like that's
Yeah, I don't even know what I would classify that as either, but I know what you're talking about, that
yeah,
style of making a film. I'll tell you one I
yeah, but
just
I
seen over the weekend was Smile 2. It was
oh
amazing.
really?
Yes.
Really? I'll have
It
to give it
I
a
mean, it
try.
was hands down, to me, the best horror film I've seen in a long time. I enjoyed Smile 1 also. But Smile 2, great, good story. Again, I mean, and that girl may be a known actor. I didn't know her from anything, but like she did phenomenal. Nobody else in the cast was really a known person, at least that I knew of. But just because of the way they done it and the way it was constructed, it was scary as hell. Actually, I take that back. There was one person I found out after the fact, the man on the picture of the Smile movie, and I thought, I'm like, this guy looks familiar, but I knew I didn't really know him. It's Jack Nicholson's son.
Oh, yeah, he would probably have features where you're kind of seeing him.
On the
Yeah.
movie poster, it's him, which is odd because he's not even in the film, but like maybe 3 minutes. I mean, he's like the boyfriend that died of the main character. So you have like
Yeah.
one flashback scene of them in the car, and then one scene where she thinks she's seeing him while she's having a hallucination. So he's got maybe 5 minutes of screen time, but he's on the cover of the movie. And you see that, and it's just like somebody done a TikTok or something and put them side by side with the character from The Shining and the smiles that they had on their face. And I mean, they were like identical. And I'm like, oh, well, that looks, a lot like it. But, just in that sense, you take something that is supposed to be like a pleasant thing, like a smile, supposed to be something of happiness and joy. And like when I left that theater, I actually had my son with me. He was 16. And I was like, if I see anybody smile at me, I'm just going to run them over. Like that's how scary that movie
Like
was.
you just really scared me. Yeah, that's good.
No, I mean,
That's
it's
good.
and it's like she's talking to people, and then she'll realize that, they're inhabited by whatever this thing is she's seeing, and it's just like slowly. I mean, it's scary as shit. Think something so
I'll have
simple
to give it
wouldn't
a
be that
try.
scary. It's amazing. Well,
That
definitely one of the better films that I've seen. So outside of the acting, I mean, you're still, we mentioned earlier, if you're into fitness, you're, a health coach, fitness training. Do you kind of do all that, on the side, or has that kind of been leading a healthy lifestyle has always been something you've kind of done throughout your life?
Yeah, so I was actually genuinely the type of person in school that tries to not participate at PE. So the irony of me becoming a trainer is not has not escaped me. But no, at some point in college, I started absolutely loving yoga. And then later, I did all this other, like a little bit of like body weight training, a little bit of lightweight lifting. And I started just actually realizing how much better it does make me feel. And I would get, and I'm a very emotional person in all the directions. So if I'm really excited and happy about it, everyone around me is. But when I get mad, like cover, take cover. So that was a really, really good way for me to make myself feel better whenever I didn't, to let out frustrations and all that stuff. And so it would become something that I would miss whenever I didn't have it. And then, of course, having multiple pregnancies, women go through a lot of crazy things then. And so you would always have the pressure of bouncing back. So I would try to increase that and learn more about it and all that stuff with aging too. But yeah, I was always very, very passionate about yoga. And then later I started doing a lot of other like strength training and stuff like that.
I've seen some amazing transformations from yoga that you would think wouldn't be possible. I mean, like, because it's at least that I know of, I don't do a lot of yoga, but it's essentially like it's not like heavy cardio or weightlifting. But the people that I've seen, especially, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but DDP yoga, he was a former wrestler. And like some of the transformations of the people that started working with him are amazing. And I'm just like, you do all that from doing yoga?
Yeah, so it doesn't look it. And sometimes when you're looking at people do yoga, it just looks like it doesn't look hard. It really
Right.
doesn't. The way I learned to stand on my head was because I saw some random Instagram of a girl standing on her head, and I'm like, that looks so easy. And I'm like the most stubborn person you'll ever meet. So it was morning, and I said, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that today. And I kept doing it. I kept doing it, and by the end of the day, I was stable. But that's not a normal story. I'm just that stubborn. But the fact is that you're doing a lot of poses that, even though they don't look a specific way, you are shifting your weight, and you are putting more weight on specific parts of your body, a lot of core that and then you're holding it for a long time. And the holding is like, it actually makes your muscles work a lot more. It's time under tension. Your muscle is under tension for a longer time, so those
Uh,
muscles really do grow. And the more your muscle grows, the more muscle mass you have, the better your metabolism is, so you slim down. So that's sort of why they always say strength training is better than cardio, essentially for weight loss, for long-term weight loss. Because when you're just running, during the running and your heart rate being up, you burn calories at the
right.
time, extra calories. But the moment you stop and your heart rate slows back down, that's it. That's all you've done today, right? That's all you've burned today, except for the normal everyday, stuff. And then when you grow more muscle, the more muscle mass you have, the more you're like resting heart rate, your metabolism is higher.
Right.
And you can, in fact, grow a lot of muscle doing yoga, even though you're not adding a lot of extra outside weights. So,
If someone wanted to like start doing yoga, how do you recommend them going to doing that? Like either YouTube videos? Is there a certain person or company that you use? What would be your recommendation?
so I did actually start way, way, way originally back in college. I started yoga from YouTube, and the YouTuber that does is her name is Adrian, Yoga with Adrian. And I mean, she is huge now. If you type in yoga, I'm pretty sure it's the first person that will pop up. But I was so in love with her back then because she was so genuine. She would also like lose her balance, then laugh and say, "Oh, I'm human." And by the way, she used to be an actress, or she is an actress, but she sort of shifted her like main focus onto the whole helping other people with yoga. Her classes are just like, she'll do like 30-minute videos, but they're unedited. So
Right.
she talks through it with you. She runs out of breath with you. She sometimes gets like, she digresses sometimes stories, and you're like in the pose, you're like, hello, like I can't do this one anymore. Her dog will come up and like sniff her face, and it's like, it's so genuine,
Yeah.
that it makes it so easy to come back to her. It's almost, she does it so well, like it's almost like you're going back to just like hang out with a friend and do another yoga session. So yeah, yoga with Adrian. No sponsoring needed. Like, I really love her, and I would always recommend her. But then eventually, I did go to school for it because I was so passionate about it, and I wanted to, be able to direct people to, because that's a whole different language. Being able to tell people, to not hurt themselves. Honestly, I mean,
Well, it's important because I think there's such a big difference now between all the foods that we eat and like, largely I was welder and I spent a lot of my time on the road with the sign company. What I was talking about, like we would go and do installs or we would go and tear signs out of the ground. So like our mornings would start at, very early, 6 a.m. You're either in the truck or, on the job site. You don't really have a lot of time to prep or anything like that. So you're eating at gas stations and, not the most healthiest options. So it's just like a lot of times I think out of convenience, we'll swing through a McDonald's or a Burger King or, Taco Bell. And it just becomes so convenient to do that because then you also think after a hard day's work, you're coming home. God, I don't feel like cooking. I'll swing by McDonald's or, it just becomes such a habit that you get, enthralled, and it's hard to break out of it because meal prepping is a job within itself to a certain degree,
Yeah.
or eating healthy. I mean, you have to go to the grocery store and, buy the right thing. So it's so hard to do the right thing and so easy to fall into doing all the wrong things, which is why we have an obesity problem.
Absolutely. And in Europe, at least wherever I lived, and also again, like at this point, what, 6, 7 years ago, but still, there's not even half of the like drive-through choices and fast food choices that we have here. It's just not that convenient, if that makes any sense. And the
Yeah.
way I lived, I would have had to, go down from the fifth story of my apartment, get on my bike, ride down the road somewhere, stand in line, and while at the same time the grocery store would have been much closer, or you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
then also even the fast food choices. So, and I can't stress this enough, I want to like at some point manifest this into the world, that somebody from Turkey will come here and actually open the correct kebab shop, because in Germany we have a lot of Turkish immigrants, and the doner kebabs that they make, it's this huge sandwich filled with vegetables, and then their kebab meat, it's something else. It's just, I can't explain it. Whatever you buy here that's called a kebab, it's not that. It's just, but the whole thing is that, yeah, technically it's fast food. It's done super quick. You get it immediately. It was only like €3 at the time. So what, that's like $3, $4, right? And it was huge sandwich, and it was so meat and vegetable heavy that it was in fact actually not bad for you,
Yeah.
there's just not that much nutrition in our food out here anymore. It's very, very hard. You actually have to supplement, which is not great either. And not everyone is such a habit person to like be every morning, okay, here's my little snack, and then I'll take my pills, and then I'll, at this time I'll eat this. And then you get bored with the food prep stuff, and the fake like flavors that are additives in all of this fast food gets you addicted to them, and they taste so much more intense
Yeah.
than the normal food, that unless you detox off of that completely, you really don't appreciate regular vegetables. And like, so you really do have to like take a good like sabbatical from all your fast foods, and then suddenly a salad, or it doesn't have to be a salad, it can be a sandwich, but just make your own at home. It
Yeah.
will taste like real food again, and you'll actually be like, oh shit, this is good, so it's hard to break out of it. I agree.
Yeah, you hit on something there. It's like when they make everything convenient, the area that I live in, it was a newer development. So there's a lot of neighborhoods there. And we had a Publix grocery store that was close by, which that's convenient to be able to run to the grocery store. And then little by little, all these restaurants start popping up. You got McDonald's now, you got a Chick-fil-A. I think you got a barbecue spot. They just opened up a Buffalo Wild Wings, then a Dunkin' Donuts. And so I'm thinking now they've made all this other stuff so available. And it's just like you don't really think of it that way. You're like, man, like you said, if I'd had to drive 20 minutes to get to a restaurant, I'd just assume run to the grocery store and pick me up something that's maybe a little healthier. But now with that option to just being able to shoot the chick, man, I can't tell you. I mean, my son loves Chick-fil-A. And of course, he doesn't have to worry about that. He stays skinny and in shape because his metabolism is through the roof and he, plays football. But I can't tell you how much money I've dropped on chicken sandwiches since that place opened. I love the idea in the beginning. Now I hated it. I wish they hadn't come here because it's not the cheapest. They call it God's chicken for a reason. But I mean, it's
Yeah.
just, it's so money. It's just so much easier. And then, but even that now, I mean, the prices on that are getting crazy. When you go and order a combo, I mean, I remember back in the day it was $5 and $6. Now you're spending 12, $13 on a combo. I mean, it's
Yeah.
insane how the prices and everything are, just
No, it's
changed so
true.
much. Um,
It's true.
do you have any I know you mentioned some movies you're working on. what would be the next thing coming out that we can spot you in?
So I believe it is what, the 29th or the 31st, 2 days. In 2 days, we're having a trailer coming out for the movie You're It. It's
Oh,
a very, very cool horror film. I am playing someone in there. My word is that I might make the trailer. So let's find out. And then I guess it premieres Valentine's Day, romantically horror film. So it's going to be very cool on Valentine's Day. I think a lot of horror films made it to Valentine's Day. We're going
nice.
to have a really, really cool premiere. I'm very excited. So yeah, that's coming out. But we did just start a very, very cool project. It is sort of like a psycho thriller about a country singer. And we just started sort of the production thing the past 2 weeks. And it's looking very promising. It's very, very exciting. Again, like a very, very glamorous life of still covered in blood. I don't know if I can tell you anymore so far, but we would love to have you on set. So if you would like to visit whenever we start filming the actual thing, right now we're doing like the promo stuff, but I think we're starting shooting in April. So we'd love to have you. We'll be in touch so you can know exactly. Like we'll probably be doing like multiple weekends after weekends of all of April, May, or something.
Oh,
So
yeah, I would love to do that for sure. I'd love to come there and see that behind the scenes and how stuff works, and I've been to a few. I've got a friend of mine that shoots movies in Florida, and I've been to a few of his premiere parties that he's had, and I mean, like, I have a blast at those things. It's just everybody, like, enjoying themselves, having a good time. They usually show the film, and, I've been to 2 of them, and I mean, I've had an absolute blast at those things, and they're all, very nice. One of them was at the Guitar Hotel in Hollywood, Florida.
wow,
We get to Yeah, he rented out the day or nightclub in there, and I mean,
nice.
it was awesome. So, yeah, I would
Yeah,
definitely love to do that.
that's gonna be my first premiere, like, to be at my like, something that I was in the first time, so that's gonna be very exciting. I'm already thinking about what I'm gonna wear in February.
Well, and I'll end it on this story, and I seen this the other day, and I thought it was kinda neat. He was like, "There's so many things when you're an actor that you have to pre-plan for," and it was Tom Cruise. I don't know why I was on, like, a Tom Cruise short, just watching spree, and he was talking about when he did The Color of Money. He was very young, and he was acting with Paul Newman. And he was like, they go to set. It was the middle of the summer, and they're trying all these different things. And he's like, all right, I'll do this short sleeve shirt and these jeans, and I have my hair, slicked back. And he's like, then they start filming in December, and he's like, they fly me up there, and I get off the plane, and I am freezing. He's like, but everything for the budget is everything that they have. And he's like, Paul Newman's sitting with this big trench coat in the car with the heater going, and he's like, on takes, he would hop in the car, and he said, Paul kind of looked over at him, and he's like, tried your wardrobe on in the summer, didn't you, kid? He's like, sir, I did. He's like, well, you won't make that mistake no more. And he's like, I never did. And so it's just things like that that you don't think about. Like, you don't think about, all right, I'll be filming this in December. What do I want to wear in December? So I
Yeah,
just thought it
and
was a funny story.
TV shows do opposite seasons
Yeah,
because you have to prepare so that it's out of post at the right season. So when you're doing Christmas episodes, you're filming those in the summer.
right.
So when I was a PA, it was the same thing. Like it was at some point snowing, and they had to wear sundresses. It's just like if you have outdoor filming at any point, it's kind of like, yeah, well, I gotta suck it up now.
All the ins and outs of the active business. I love it. Well, Marty, I've enjoyed having you on. Do you have any social medias that people can go follow you on before we get out of here?
Yes, yes. I'm on Instagram as Cafe Del Marty, very, very old nickname, but I never changed it. But you can find also Marty Stroupe on both Facebook and IMDb, which
Okay.
is hopefully filling up. And yes, hopefully I'm having an actual reel coming out soon because I have a lot of stuff in post production. And it's funny, you keep telling people I was in this and this and this, and then you're kind of waiting half a year to prove it, you know?
Yeah. Well, we will put a link to your Instagram as well as your IMDb in the show notes. So go check her out. Look forward to all the movies she's got coming out. Go check her out in Tulsa King. And we look forward to collaborating in the future for sure. Thank you for stopping by the show.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.
All right. We'll see you next week here on Crime and Entertainment. Marty, it's been a pleasure.
Bye.